Hey everyone, my name is Eva Reese. I'm the Client Solutions Specialist here at Activate. And we're going to talk today about how to boost your productivity in your company with the use of business activities. So let's go ahead and get started. So they're going to be used to log and track a part of your business. So they can be used for really any aspect of your business. They're one of the most customizable modules within Activate. And with business activities, you can assign responsibility for a task to a specific user or a group of users, and then log the calls, emails, and other notes all in one place. They're limitless applications for business activities. There's also some common uses. Things that I see very often are customer service, as well as sales leads, and then return merchandise authorizations as well. Product quality issues, all that good stuff. So we'll be going over some of the different aspects of a business activity, what makes a business activity, and a little bit of how to set up the different statuses and types for business activities, just briefly. And then we'll discuss a couple of examples. We'll go through an RMA as well as a service order. And then we'll discuss the service billing module a little bit and go into the service scheduling module as well. So what are some of the configurable fields that you can set up with drop-downs in a business activity? The first one is the type. The type of the business activity is going to determine what kind of segment of the business it's related to. So for this particular example, we have an RMA type. That means it is an RMA. You can set up types for really anything that you're wanting to have a business activity for. And this type is actually going to determine the rest of the drop-downs used in the other fields that we'll go over. We have a code. A code is a category within a type. So the RMA specific ones are quality issues, or if there was a damage in shipment, things like that make up a code within the type of RMA. Resolution. Resolution is to record the outcome. Was the customer happy about how you resolved it? Or did you have to give them a refund without receiving the materials back? Things like that. The status is where it is within the process of the business activity itself. So the RMA's specific statuses are things like it's been authorized, it's now in progress, we're waiting on the customer to ship the item back, we're waiting on the credit memo to be created, or something like it's been created, it's been completed, and the refund is done. Then we have priority. Priority is what actually controls the due date. And this is something that you'll see come in really handy in the service scheduling module, as well as in the review for the business activities themselves. So the business activity review gives me the ability to look at all of the business activities that are assigned to me, or another specific user, or to anybody in the company. And we'll go into that a little bit more in the demo as well. All right. Down here at the bottom of the business activity window, we have a related items section. The related items give you, the user, the ability to link other Activate transactions or data to the activity. So what that means is that I can link a customer directly to the activity. I can link a contact specifically to the activity, things like that, as well as products, lot serial numbers if you're using those, and sales orders or quotes if we are doing anything related to an RMA. You can also add additional web-based links. So if you have an eBay store and you want to add the link for the eBay item listing, you can absolutely add the web-based link down at the bottom. So my particular examples in my demo company are adding the Amazon product, adding a Google map, or a Google search. The discussion tab is where most of the information related to the activity is going to go. The first field here is a description. So this is a short summary of the issue. Typically it's about 8 to 10 words. You can put more, we don't limit you, but keep in mind that this is the field that is going to show on all of the reports and the review for the business activities. So I like to keep this short and sweet, to the point, and then the discussion section can be a little bit more wordy. You're going to give a more detailed account, what actually happened, what you're doing about it, all of the different things that you need to have in relation to this particular activity are typically housed in the discussion. The resolution, this is where you get to put notes on what you did to fix it. Any additional survey questions or anything that you asked the customer after you resolved their issue for them, you can put that in here. So that way when you're looking back at the activity, you're able to see what was done to resolve it. All right, the notes and emails tab. The notes really work the same way as all notes tabs within Activate. So your sales orders notes, your customer notes, product notes, all that good stuff. They are all pretty much functioning the same, meaning that you can set up a follow-up assignment with a follow-up due date on the particular note itself. So that way you're able to see those follow-up assignments within the alerts section of Activate. Then the email section is going to give you the ability to drag and drop emails between yourself and the customer from your email application in order to log them and show exactly what's been going on in the correspondence between yourself and the customer. You can also send emails directly from within the activity. So that way you can keep up with any of the responses you need to make to the customer directly from there. You can also attach documents and a business activity report directly in there as well. The time section of the business activities, this tab will only be visible, and the button at the top will only be visible when you have the business activity service billing module itself. It's a slightly separate module for business activities, but it gives you the ability to log a labor item and charge labor on a service order, or just log labor so that way you know how long it took you to do a particular activity itself. Even if you're not going to charge the customer, you can still log the labor in here. Then on the materials tab, the materials are where you're going to add products used in an activity for a service order or something to that effect. Typically you see these with service billing. Alrighty, and then the log tab of the business activity is really useful for when you're wanting to see what happened, when it happened, things like that. We have the ability to track the status, assignment, and a lot of the other fields, mainly drop downs, that you get to choose within the activity. So we can see that my due date and everything right here was changed and all that good stuff. All right, the business activity review. This is probably one of the bigger aspects of utilizing business activities, because I don't just have to go and look in the lookup window to see what activities I have open. This business activity review screen gives me the ability to see everything that's open, that's assigned to someone, that's a certain type. So all of these filters up here at the top of the window can be utilized to filter down to a specific type of activity if I want. I can also drag the columns up to the gray bar in the middle, and that gray bar is going to help me segment out the activity list based on that particular column. So right now I'm filtering it on status, and the status codes are all now sectioned out, and you'll see that I have an authorized, a callback, need more information, etc. I also can have this window auto refresh. There's settings for a minute, 15 minutes, things like that. This is so that way if anybody makes any changes, I'm going to be able to see them on the fly. So the service billing wizard is part of that service billing module. This is where you're going to be able to create service orders in a batch for multiple business activities. So what I typically see customers use this for is when they bill at a monthly basis or a weekly basis for multiple activities at one time. So they'll go through this at the end of the month and make sure that everything is billed out to the customer at that time. All right, so let's go into our demo itself. We'll briefly open Configuration Manager just to show you kind of where you're going to be able to configure these options. And keep in mind, our support team is absolutely willing to help you out and make sure that you're using the business activity module to the fullest extent. We have our activity options. I can have new activities that are unassigned by default. I can set a default message template. And the log tab, this is where I can log the changes to any of these things. So if I don't care about the changes to reference or reference to, I can uncheck these boxes and they will not be logged if I change those two fields. The activity external links is what I was talking about on the related items. For that eBay product, if I wanted to add the eBay product listing, I would add the link template in here, with the key being the actual product listing ID at the end. And then here is the big part of business activity configuration itself, the business activity types. So the RMA section here is what we were seeing on those screenshots in the PowerPoint. The RMA section determines these statuses. So I want to include the authorized status, the closed status, need more information, open and pending. But I don't want to include callback. Don't need to include that one. No opportunity. That one's for a sales opportunity and things like that. So I can have status codes that are more general, that are used for everything. And then I can have specific status codes that are only used for some activity types. And this gives me the ability to do that. Same thing goes for priority. If I want to only have a couple of priorities set for each one, this is where I'm going to make that determination. I can even add new priorities if I wanted to at this time. And then we've got codes, same thing, the resolution, and then the scheduling class. And this is really just used for service scheduling. And we'll go into that a little bit. So now let's go in and go through an example of an RMA activity. So I'll go in and I'll select an activity. And I'll create a new activity. Choose the type of RMA. And it's going to default a couple of things for me. So it's defaulting the code, the resolution, the status is set to blank, and then the priority. So this is where I'm going to go in and say it was a delivery issue. And I don't know the resolution yet. The status is open. And it's a normal one. And we're going to put in here, so the customer contacted us, product damaged. Then we'll add the customer. Our customer in this case is going to be ABC Services. And we're going to add their sales order that we're talking about. And that was typed it in wrong. There we go. So this particular sales order is the one that I'm actually reviewing. One of the boxes for the shipment of the items was damaged, and that included the lateral file, and the laminating machine. So the L450 and the F120 are going to be added in as materials on the Materials tab here. So we'll go to Material, choose that product, the F120, and they ordered 3 of them. All 3 happen to be included in that particular box for some reason. And then we'll add the other product that was in that box, the L450. And they just ordered 1 of the laminating machines. So we'll just put in -1. So this is one way to complete the RMA and create the credit memo. You do not have to create credit memos using business activities. I do want to make sure that's clear. You can create a credit memo directly from the sales order. All right, so we'll close that sales order out, and we're going to assign this to Judy. Judy's going to work on this for us, and we'll save. So the status is open. As Judy works with Mary Lou Wright on this issue, she's going to log some notes. So the notes are same as every other window within Activate for Notes. Okay, I'm logging essentially a call. If there was something that I need to follow up on, I can put the follow-up in here. And then the emails that are exchanged between Judy and Mary can be dragged and dropped from a desktop application of an email provider into Activate. We can't drag and drop emails from a web application such as Gmail, but if you do have your Gmail linked to the mail application that comes with Windows, you will be able to drag and drop from there. The other option is, of course, to save the messages or the emails on your desktop and drag and drop directly from your desktop to Activate. All right, so now we have this due within 1 day, and that's because our priority is actually determining our due date. And let's kind of skip ahead and create the credit memo itself. They sent back the damaged products so that way we could send those back to the vendor and get a credit from them. And we're going to hit Create Credit Memo. And the credit memo has the lateral file and the laminating machine. There's 2 items that we added to the Materials tab. And I will go through and make sure that everything here is processed correctly for the credit itself. You will notice that since I created the credit memo directly from the business activity, it is automatically linked to the business activity for me, so I don't have to do that additional work. Okay. So let me show you the activity review really fast, just to show you kind of what that looks like and how you can manipulate it. And we talked about it a little bit still. So we have our statuses as our column for segmenting out. If I don't have anything in there, then this is what it will look like. And you can just sort by the dates or statuses, things like that. But I find it's really nice to use the status sectioning here just to be able to see at a glance, oh, I have 4 pending business activities, things like that. You can, of course, use any other column here, such as code, things like that, user routine service, so on. And then I can look at Judy's specific issues. She does only have the 1 business activity for the RMA that is open at this time. You can include unassigned activities, so anything that is unassigned will show up. So that way she can take those upon and assign them to herself if needed. These would be really helpful when using the service side. So let's get into service. The service aspect involves not just the business activity module, but also the service billing module. And so I'll show you kind of how that looks when you create a service order. We're going to create a service business activity. It's going to be a routine service. We'll add a customer. Okay. And then we're going to be working on a particular product. So we're going to add the printing calculator. This is the item that we are going to be doing service on. Printing calculator key stock. Oops, if I could type. And then we'll go into the discussion and give a little bit more detail. We'll kind of skip that for now since we know that that's, it's fairly straightforward. So I'm going to assign this to Bill. Bill's going to be doing the work for me on this. And as he goes through and works on it, he's going to assign out who's going to actually be doing the work. So Tom is actually going to be doing the labor on it itself, but Bill is kind of the supervisor. And there are different settings to show what employees are going to show in the labor items. So here we'll put in time. He spent half an hour on it, and the units of measure here can be configured within the units of measure in the configuration manager of Activate as well, just like product unit of measures. And then the billing option here, this one's a little unique. I can do just standard billing, so that's when the customer will be charged for the labor. There is NC, which is no charge, meaning we would normally bill for it, but this time we're going to cut them a break. And then NB is no bill. We have a contract with them, or maybe the item's under warranty, and so it wouldn't be normally included on a bill at all. This time we're going to do standard billing. We're going to put in a work description of went on site and worked on calculator. Okay. This particular work description will show on the service order, and that's why it's important to fill that in. And then the material of whatever materials we would be using in order to fix this item. I'm going to just add a product in here. I think I'll just choose that. Put in the quantity ordered. Same as on a sales order, you can change the unit of measure, and you can put in a reference. And then the price code itself here is going to be just like a sales order. It's going to be using the pricing based on the customer that you have in here as the primary related item. So Craven Manufacturing, if they had a price code defaulted for that customer, it would use their price code here. So we'll save this and create the service order. I can create the service order just one-off, and it will include the labor charges and the product that we added on the materials. You'll see that the instructions here has the work description of whatever we did. So that will print on the service order itself. So if I'm doing monthly billing, weekly billing, anything like that, I would use the activity billing wizard. This billing wizard is very nice. I get to determine what I want to bill out. So if I open up this, I have a contract ID that is related to this particular business activity for Abercrombie. And this is the activity itself. We actually have 2 activities for Abercrombie for this month that we need to bill out. And if we expand each activity, we can see what's going to be charged. So we have labor charged on this one, and we have materials charged on this one. If we check the box next to Abercrombie, we'll bill for both of those, and same thing goes for the rest. We have our materials here as well as a labor items to charge to the customer. So let's go ahead and select all. Then we're going to hit create orders. Service orders were successfully created. Now those items will be marked as billed in the business activity itself. So now you'll see the checkbox right here next to the items or the time related to the activity as billed. And then on the discussion tab, we now have our service order connected directly to the activities as well. And I can invoice this out to the customer to be charged. Alrighty. So real quickly, we'll go over the scheduling aspect of the business activities. This is something where I can assign a business activity out to a particular user if needed. And you'll see that there's a green highlight and a red highlight. The red highlight is those activities that are set as overdue, and the green is those that are current. So I can just take the activity, these are unassigned right now, and I can move it over to Judy and assign it to Judy itself. Now it's not going to show right now because it's due by the 15th. I'm going to put this timeline out a little further. So it's July, so it shows everything that's kind of current. You'll see that the promise date here is what's actually determining our due dates and everything. We also have these handy little icons, so you'll be able to tell exactly what is going on for each of the cards you see here. This is a service option. This one right here is and if we open up the activity, you'll see that it is a priority of urgent, and that little icon tells us that it's urgent as well. You get to choose the icons when you set this up in Configuration Manager as well. I can reassign activities as well. So if Bill is going to be out of the office, I can just drag and drop it over to Tom for him to complete. And that will show up in the review as well. So it changes everything on the back end for us. Bill no longer has anything assigned to him. It's now only assigned to Tom. All right, so we'll go into a couple of questions really fast. So the first question we have is, does Activate plan to create standard business practice activities? You can see all of the standard activities within the demo company. You do have the ability to open up the demo company on your copy of Activate. You can kind of get a feel for how business activities could work for your company based on what's in the demo company itself. So you'll get the exact same data as what I'm showing here in that demo there. Another question was, is there a way to pre-fill within the discussion box information companies want populated? There's not currently a way to pre-fill that. What you could do is add this information as a related item on the business activity, or you could utilize a web form that links to a business activity where your guys are filling it out on a site that you host, and that creates a business activity for you. We kind of went over this, but can you drag and drop emails from Gmail instead of an email client like Outlook? We can't drag and drop emails from a web-based application such as Gmail, but if you were to connect your Gmail to Outlook or to another mail application such as the mail client that you get with Windows, you can drag and drop from those applications into Activate. And then we have a good question here about some of the functionalities on due dates and how you see the ones for the review. So you see the date here of any time. When you have a large number of business activities, you'll want to filter this down so that way you're not pulling every single activity that could be related to yourself or any of the other statuses here. I would say that our support team would be happy to help troubleshoot that, but also, making sure that you're only using the due dates and things like that if you do have, I would say, more than 10,000 activities. The business activities module itself is an add-on module. You can speak to the sales team to talk about the purchase of that additional module. So we got in a question also on setting up a prospective customer and what fields are available for importing the information on the customer. Let me go through that real fast. You can absolutely put in a sales opportunity in here with all of the different codes and everything that were related to your business. And you can add just a contact that is not related to a customer. So that way you're not having to create new customers for those that are maybe not quite to the point of purchase yet. You don't want to create a customer unnecessarily. So you can enter the contact name. So we'll put in test here. Okay, you can put in the phone, the fax, and the email, but we're just really saving rudimentary information before the time of creating the customer. Okay, so yes, you can absolutely create the activity itself, the customer from the activity itself. You have to save the business activity with the contact that you just created, right-click on the related item that you did, and hit convert to customer, and that will create the customer, convert the contact to a customer itself. We got in a question about negative POs to return products to the vendor. You absolutely can create a negative PO to return items. You can't create the POs directly from the business activity itself, but what you can do is you can create the PO and then add it as a related item on the business activity to manage and monitor the status of the PO as you go through the process of it. I don't believe we have a webinar on the web forms. The question was, is there a webinar on web forms and pre-filling fields within an activity? We don't have a webinar on it, but there is an extensive help article about that particular subject. Oh, good question. Do the activities created with the contact before adding as a new customer stay with the customer? Yes, if I create a contact and on the business activity and then convert it to the customer, yes, the business activity is logged on the customer itself in the activities tab. One thing to keep in mind is you may want to set up some default customer attributes such as the customer type and things like that. So that way when you do create the customers from the business activity, there are those defaults that are going to be set up, such as the customer type, set as prospect, and such like that. And then if you were to add in the email and phone information on the contact before you convert it, that will be saved on the customer record itself. When the status changes, the question is, can you demonstrate setting up an email when status changes? So in configuration, you can also configure some of these status setups and different things like that. There's user permissions messages as well. So give me a second, we'll open up configuration and see what we got. So on the business activities under the activity type, there is the send message on the status codes. And this send message does send an email when that send message is checked when it's changed to that status code to the user permission message address. So it would be going, if I assigned it to Bill, it would go to his message address here. And the question is, nothing is different from an accounting point of view between a service order and a sales order. And yes, that is correct. Service orders do typically include more of the service items, which are other charges. So that would be the only real difference, because they're not cost of goods sold items so much, unless you're using a standard cost. But other than that, really no differences there. All right, so we'll go ahead and end it. Feel free to email our support team at support@activate.com or put in a support request for assistance with setting up your own business activities. Thanks. Have a great day.